All right, so today I am going to do a short Illustrator demo on doing your bio page 1 assignments. And in terms of, like I said, I understand that, hey, what happened to the Illustrator class? Well, it got canceled or whatever. So anyway, we're going to do some demos like this to get around that. As well, I am video recording it, videotaping it, however you want to say, and it'll be on YouTube. And let's all say, hi, Mavis. Sorry you couldn't be here today. Come on.
Hi, Mavis. Sorry you couldn't be here today.
Thank you. So she's at home and is going to be watching this, hopefully. So here is the bio page 1 assignment. And so let's kind of deconstruct this of what I'm expecting you guys to do. So in terms of what we talked about, let's go back to the good old assignment page. So we talked about the anatomy of setting type, and now we are talking about the rules of setting readable type. And in terms of the rules of setting readable type, while this is loading, I will point to what is on the board here that, well, this is loading. Why don't I take a picture of it? Hopefully my server didn't crash again. It's been having trouble. It's trying. It's trying. Record. Let's take a picture of this. But in terms of setting readable type, right, there is the formula of column size to type size to leading, okay? So as we saw, right? So if I open up this little screenshot, we haven't gone to this yet, but let's say, and this is some older specifications in terms of if we're talking about column size, right? So you can see here the 500 pixels wide column, and the body copy is then 14 points over 21 points. Who can tell me why I am using points and or, well, let's just say it like this. Points to pixels.
This is print.
Huh?
This is print.
Correct. So points to pixels, 1-to-1, meaning if we are working at 72 pixels per inch on the web, right? When we are doing a document like this, if we then, let's say, save for web out of Illustrator and we save it as a PNG, we still have the option to save it as 72 pixel per inch PNG, which would then basically make 1 point to 1 pixel, right? Here, what we're doing is we are setting in Illustrator things using points, but on the web, we will convert those to pixels. So in the HTML text world, 1 point still equals 1 pixel, right? You may notice a little slight discrepancy in terms of, well, who has ever noticed any discrepancy between colors in Photoshop and Illustrator and hex colors? They're all supposed to be the same color, and there's a little bit of discrepancy. Christopher, you understand what I'm saying?
I understand, but yeah, I can't notice that.
Okay. The colors will be slightly different. It's supposed to be the same, but they'll look slightly different, right? So basically the same thing happens here in terms of type. It should be a 1-to-1 relationship. 1 point equals 1 pixel. You might notice some slight discrepancies, but in other words, what I'm saying is don't worry about it. That was a long road to get to the just don't worry about it, right? So, but in terms of readable text, right? Let's say this body copy that I have on the screen right now. Readable? enough, right? So again, the 500 pixel column, the 14/21 body copy, also known as the 2/3 rule. In other words, if you take 14 and 21 and lowest common denominator, it makes 2/3. Then we have space before and space after. So again, in the screenshot, you can see here in the, now this is a little old screenshot from CS3, I believe, but here in the paragraph palette, we have space before and space after, and we'll talk about how to use that. So in terms of readable copy then, basically what we want to do is, if we go to the Illustrator version here, so if I select this body copy right there, and then I open the paragraph palette, and I'll bring it over here, right? You can see here that I have 10 points space after, right? So if I said 0, we wouldn't know exactly where one paragraph starts and one paragraph ends. Possibly because we have this period in this blank space, right? And again, in the old-timey days, back when Michael Jacobs was in high school, right?
Not that long.
Not that long ago? Oh, okay. Back when I was in high school, how about we change it to that, right? We would do this. We would put a tab. We don't do that any longer, right? So basically what we do for paragraphs then is we typically give space after the paragraph. Now, same thing with the headline, right? So if we go back to the anatomy of setting type lecture that we had on Tuesday, we talked about then space before, space after a headline like this. In other words, what you want to typically do is make sure that this headline has enough space before the headline to sit away from the preceding paragraph, and a touch of space after to sit away from the paragraph after it, but you still want to, one way, shape, or form, have this headline be associated with this paragraph. Now, we have known from reading since we were 5 years old that if I come across a headline, it denotes a section for the paragraph that is after it. But if we do something like this, where if we have this headline there, and it has 8 pixels, 8 points space before, and 2 after, well, what if I said, okay, 10 after, or let's say 20 after, right? Now, this headline, even though we know from reading all these years, right? In other words, what's a function of a headline?
To give you a preview of what's in the next paragraph.
To give you a preview of what's in the next paragraph, and as well, so in terms of paragraphs, they denote sections of a document, right? In other words, especially when we get to the writing for the web class, we'll talk about how to write proper headlines to denote proper sections of a document on the web. So what we need to do then is add meaning for the visitor to strengthen your design, create a sense of hierarchy. So to create that sense of hierarchy, we might want to use a bigger size than the body copy. We most likely will. We also will want to use appropriate space before and space after, right? So in this one, typographic contrast and flow, right? This is a good one in terms of, this is a heading. That's the paragraph after it. Well, this is a heading. Yeah, it looks like a heading for that paragraph, right? So on and so forth. Heading, heading, heading. If we go to let's say an article that has different sizes of headlines, right? So I'm still in this version of my site here, still using an H1 tag for my logo. If I go to this headline, I am using an H2 tag. So this then would be the main headline for this article. This then would be a subheadline for this article, which is an H3 tag. And even then, there is one more level. So if we go to this H3 subheadline, it then has itself a couple of more sections, right? So in other words, these headlines slowly but surely start to make up kind of a Roman numeral outline. True? Right? So that's kind of how we organize our text, especially when it comes to writing our own text, right? But visually, in terms of the hierarchy, we want to have those tags represent the sections of our document in a hierarchical syntax type format, and also, or hierarchical structural format, but also in a visual hierarchy, right? So one way, shape, or form, each one of these headlines then is bigger than the body copy that comes after it, okay? So if I select this H4, you can see here that I have a padding top of 8 pixels and a margin bottom of 4 pixels, okay? So padding top would be the space before, margin bottom would be the space after. If we look at these paragraphs, on these paragraphs then, margin bottom 10 pixels, that would be the space after to set this paragraph away from that paragraph, even though this paragraph only has one sentence. So if we look at this paragraph versus that paragraph versus that paragraph, so on and so forth, all the way through the document, let me say it like this, or ask you like this. How well organized is just the body copy and headline and screenshot, meaning the readability of this article? Doesn't suck. Good enough. In other words, you can read it and follow along and know what's happening and read the article. So that's basically then what we are shooting for here, okay? So what I want you guys to do then is in the assignment. Now, this is where my download, bio page 1, does not have the full requirements in the assignment because it's a little bit old, right? Let me say that again. It does not have the full requirements. Here's what I mean by that, and this is now on video. You must include, well, let's say it like this. From your logo specifications, you will need to create headlines and body text in a page with biographical and content information. You must include A, your logo, B, a main level heading. So a main level heading, whether it's an H1 or an H2 tag, it's up to you. At least 2 sub-level headings. Sub-level 1, sub-level 2. At least 2 paragraphs in tandem, meaning I would prefer that each headline had at least 2 paragraphs, or each subheadline, meaning. We want to see how these paragraphs, right, margin bottom, how they sit away from each other, okay? One ordered list, numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4. One unordered list, bullet points. A block quote. I don't think I have a block quote in this one, but if I opened up this one, went all the way down to the bottom, a block quote, okay? Again, this block quote should not distract anybody from reading the content. It should enhance the content. And a text link. Text link. Okay? Those are the requirements. So you must specify column width. Column width. Type size. Type size. Leading. Leading. Space before. So if on your headlines then you have space before, call it out. You do not have to do these lines over here. And
Is that space before your headline or before the paragraph following? Yeah.
hold on, let me deselect. Why are you not deselecting? Come on, deselect. What was that, Michael?
Was that space before the headline or space before the paragraph following the headline?
You tell me.
Well, because it's the least one down there, it looks like it's before the paragraph.
In other words, whatever you're going to do, you specify.
Okay.
Does that make sense? That's what I mean by you tell me. So in mine, I have on this headline here, I have space before and space after. So if I zoom in on this, here's how these lines actually work, okay? But you do not have to do these lines. This is merely a demo for me to talk through this with you. All you have to do is, on your specifications, is point an arrow to it. That's all I want. So who had their hand up over here? Is that you, Christopher?
Yeah.
Chris or Christopher? I'm going to ask you this for 3 more quarters. Christopher? Okay. So go ahead, Dave.
So the
Nobody.
lines that point to services, there's 10-point space after and 8-point space before.
Uh-huh.
I don't quite understand that.
How it works?
Yeah.
Great. That's what I was just about to talk about.
Good segue.
Yeah. So how do these lines work? Well, if we go back to then, where is it? Anatomy of setting type, and we go to this one. So we have, again, leading. What is the definition of leading? How do we measure leading? It's from what to what? Baseline to baseline, meaning from here to there is 14. From there to there is 14. In this example, then, from here to there is 32. But that's an awkward way to define this, especially when it comes to the web world. Meaning, if I give a style to all my paragraphs that I'm going to have leading of 14, whatever unit it is, how am I going to say last line 32? I can't do that unless I use some kind of heavy-duty JavaScript something. So instead, the way we define that is on this headline then, using space before and space after instead. Meaning, if I were to then go back to this one, and we look at this paragraph, all paragraph tags have a margin bottom of 10 pixels, have a font size of 1 EM, okay? Because in my body tag, I have declared a font size of 100%, 1 EM equals what in pixels? 16, okay? So I've said margin bottom 10, but how do I say on this last line, right? Excuse me, let's say it like this. Instead of, where is it? Line height, there it is. So line height is 150, which if the font size is 16 pixels, line height is what? 24, 2/3, okay? So, but I can't say on this last line, to push this headline away from it, make the leading whatever. So instead, I'm left with, on this paragraph, using a margin bottom to sit it away, and then on this headline, using a, where is it? A padding top. So again, space before, space after. So here's how that looks in the Illustrator document with those lines. If on this paragraph I've said "14-point text over 21 pixel leading or 21-point leading," that means from baseline. So if I then did this, and this is just for demo purposes, you do not have to do this. Okay. From here to there, 14. From there to there, 14. From there to there, 14. Space after, what? Yes, I do. Thank you. Sorry. 21, 21, 21. So if I were to then move this line again, oops. Directly over top of that line, it's not exactly identical, but that line now is this line, that top line. So from here to that top line is 21, okay? We go to this line. That is the space before. We go to this line. That is the space after, I think. No. Sorry. From there to there is 21. From here to there is the space after the preceding from that paragraph. From here to there is the space before on the headline. That's another way of saying from here to there is 21, 31, 39. It's another way of doing that right there. Does that make sense? Okay.
Yeah.
So here's what I'm saying, Christopher. Do not worry about these lines like that. If you do, you are going to drive yourself absolutely crazy. But again, that's a part of this class, right? I should have a test at the end on insanity to see if you guys have made any progress.
Yeah, I got it.
Like
I got
workshop?
that. So you wanted to move the services up a little bit. That's why you have space before.
So I wanted to move it down. So if I selected the services headline right here and see where I have the space before paragraph 8, if I get rid of that, it's going to move up to the preceding line. So watch. 0. It now moved up to this line. So if I give that space before back, it moves down to that baseline. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You sure?
Yeah.
100%?
One little thing. So why don't you just leave it a little bit higher? Is there a golden rule or something?
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yes, it's called eyeballing it.
Okay, it just looks.
It looks pleasing to me. It pleases me. Right? It just, that's where the art form comes into play. One way, shape, or form, you need to make this headline away from the paragraph before it and away from the paragraph after it, while still keeping the visual hierarchy of that this headline there looks like it is associated with this paragraph. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Moving on. Or did you have a question?
So like, we're doing this all on Illustrator, right?
Right.
But then your point to going back to the website was to show that you can do this with div tags and style.
Right, because what you're going to be doing at the end of this class is you are going to be doing, in other words, however you set your type in this Illustrator document, you are going to have to recreate that as an HTML CSS document. So therefore, because you need to do that, part of this class is, well, how is the type set? What are the specifications? Meaning, when you are doing artwork for the web, design for the web, UX, whatever you want to call it, right? You are going to have to specify your work so that the developers can recreate it. Does that make sense? So that's part of, in other words, I've been asked, Mike, why are we doing these specifications? And my answer is for shits and giggles. It's incorrect, right? We're doing these for a learning process of specifying your work so that if you are a designer out in the industry, you've heard the term redline, right? Essentially the same thing, okay? It's just design specifications of your work, okay? So that being said, I am then going to now, and this is very important, I want you guys to do this as well. Show hidden characters. So when we show hidden characters, this tells you what has a paragraph return after it, okay? Here's what not to do. Don't put 2 paragraphs, or what would that represent in the web world?
Yeah.
Close. A non-breaking space in an empty paragraph tag. Do not do that. One more time. Do not do that. That is presentation via markup. Just the same thing of adding a bazillion non-breaking spaces to tab something over, right? That is markup or that is, again, presentation as markup. Same thing, 5 BR tags to get that space at the end. It's what? Presentation as markup. Wrong way to go about it. So instead, this is where, again, if we want the space after this paragraph, right, that's where you use this space after. Okay. So now creating your own document, right? Again, this is where you are not to take my document and put your logo in there and then change the headline, because that is plagiarism. That is you not creating your own work.
A good
Okay, good.
developer is a lazy developer.
Say it again. Say it again.
I said a good developer is a lazy.
Yeah, here's my reply to that, and I'm really 100% fucking dead serious. A lazy developer is a fucking unemployed developer. That's my response. Moving on.
That's developer though, that design.
I am so sick of hearing that term. Moving on. So, in other words, write your own goddamn code, produce your own. And I'm a staunch, I will bust your chops on that pretty hard. So, here's what I'm saying. No breaking paragraph like that. So, to create your own work, first and foremost, you have got your logo. Well, we need to put it in our new document. New document. What size document are we going to choose? No. Because if we choose 8.5 by 11, it will not allow for our 620 pixel column. We can do web, right? Or if you do print, I would choose tabloid. Okay? So meaning that I'd really like you guys to print these out on tabloid size paper. Anytime you're printing out wireframes for me, I would appreciate it if you did tabloid size paper. I understand if you don't and you just use the 8.5 by 11, right? But one way, shape, or form, let's do a tabloid size paper.
What is tabloid size paper?
11 by 17. Legal is 8.5 by 14. Okay. So from here, then we can paste our logo in. And yes, I understand the irony of copying and pasting there, given what we were just talking about. Yeah. That's not equal to using my document and learning nothing by just recycling my document or recycling my HTML templates.
If we don't have tabloid at home, can we do legal, or will we get doc?
Right, no, I'm not gonna doc you. If you turn it in on 8.5 by 11, I may do this, but I'm not gonna doc you. Yeah. Tabloid they have in the computer lab down on the 3rd floor. Yeah. And they will always tell you that the printer is broken when it's not. Again, hear me now. If you do it on 8.5 by 11 paper, I will just simply get over it and move on with my life, and it'll affect nothing. Yeah.
Are you eyeballing the logo too?
Sort of. I'm going to get there. In other words, if we are going to do something in a 620 pixel column, right? What we want to do is, well, let's start off by using some text. So in the bio page 1, there is a link that I need to put in there. How about I do it right now while we're thinking about it? Or while I'm thinking about it. Ask me now while I'm logging in. I can do two things at once,
Well,
mostly.
With branding
Uh-huh.
and fonts, I'm assuming since we're gonna be converting this to HTML for the web,
Uh-huh.
is there a spot to go look to see what are better fonts to use for web use versus, because we may have picked a font for our logo that we would.
Yeah. And we'll get there. We'll talk about that when we, so in other words, because what you are going to have to do is you're going to have to use the app font based CSS selector. You, well, let's put it this way. Don't use Papyrus for your body copy,
Yeah.
right? And that's your call, where that's part of this assignment, seeing what from your logo can be reused as a headline or body copy. And if it doesn't work, for body copy, I would always go back to Arial. But for your headlines, that could be your kind of fun font that you used. Does that make sense? Yeah. So going back to this page right here, get some lorem ipsum. I also have a resource that I've tucked away on in my examples, loremipsum.txt. Here's what I'm going to do. You should probably use this text file as your lorem ipsum because it won't have any of the formatting in it. So we can start by, grabbing this lorem ipsum text, going back to Illustrator, and here's the thing. If you now take your type tool and you do this, you click right there and you paste. Looks pretty funny, right? Especially when you do this. Oh, that's way too wide. I want to do, what? That's not right. Why is it? Here's what I'm saying. Delete. This is one of the more important things to get out of this. So if I go back to my type tool, and instead of just clicking, I click and I drag, I can make a box to paste my lorem ipsum text in. I can then go and make that box 620 wide by however tall it is. Now, if you change it up here, unfortunately, it might change your body copy in terms of horizontal scale. Let's just go back to selecting all of that. 100, right? And this is where then, if I want to use Arial 16 over 24, I now have body copy that's set. However, what you'll notice here is if I turn on show hidden characters, unfortunately, it's given me that space between paragraphs. Let's delete them all. And this is where we can say space after 10. Oops. Select all, space after 10. Now, as well, we have character styles and paragraph styles. So if I want to do a new paragraph style, Mike's body copy, right? And you can find the paragraph styles underneath type paragraph styles. Then I can open this up and say character formats, Arial 16/24, advanced character formats, where it is, indents and spacing, space after, right? So now if I go back and change that back to 0, it's changed spacing on all of them. Here's what you might want to do. Now that you have this 620 copy column, let's say you want to align your logo and align everything else, right? In other words, if I have here in my bio page, I have those guides. I might want to go back here, pretzel R to turn on my rulers. And if I do that, I can drag this guide over. And drag that guide over, and it'll snap. Okay? So now I can then align my logo, and if I want to then, before this paragraph, say main headline, go down after this paragraph and say sub headline, go after that one and say sub headline, right? This is where I want to make these main headlines equal to what I've done in my logo. So according to my logo specification, this is where I used Arial black, 90% width. If I do a 10-degree shear, it's going to look funny. But PMS 430. Or I could even do PMS 186. I could do whatever I want, right? But choose this headline, and I am then going to say character, Arial black. I'm going to say, I don't know, 32 over. Now this is where on headlines, I typically go with 100 or 125% leading. I'm going to say 32 for leading. Paragraph style, whoops, sorry. Paragraph over here, I'm going to say on the main headline, maybe 8 points after. And this is where I can make a new style, paragraph style, Mike's headline, main headline. And so if I double click on main headline, it should give me the Arial black 32, advanced character formats, indents and spacing, space before none, space after 8. Okay. Oh, I forgot to on this headline. So now if I want to change this, I might not want to change it in the palette. I might want to go back to, let's bring this over here, the paragraph styles, and edit that headline to say horizontal scale, 90%. Let's see for color. Character color. I don't have the, oops, cancel. Pantone 186. 186, Pantone 186. I'm going to move that into my swatches palette for this document. Should be able to click it there and then update it. Is the option key? Option key does it. Nope. Next headline. Oops. Cancel. Selected that. Character color. Pantone 186. Okay. Why did it give me that? That should be body copy. So from here, then the subheadline, same thing. Character. Let's just do it like this. Let's just go and make a new style. So we can go about it another way. Mike's sub headline. And this is where I can say character formats, Arial black, size, let's say 24/24, advanced character formats, indents and spacing. This is where space before, 8, space after, 4. Character color, Pantone 186, and it's, since I have my thing there, I'll take care of that in a bit. Subheadline, choose subheadline. Hit the option key. Subheadline, Mike's subheadline, hit the option key. Let's go back to that one, body copy. So from here, I can say, I'm going to get rid of that one paragraph. I don't need that one. But this is where then you guys will have to as well put in an unordered list, an ordered list, et cetera, and set your copy. From here, then you're going to need to specify your type. Now, here's the unfortunate part. I might not have room over here to put my specifications. What do I do?
Make a second page, canvas size or something.
You're closer. Artboard.
That's Photoshop.
So here's the art, yeah. Here's Artboard 1. If I select Artboard 1, or if I go over here to this tool and say Artboard tool and select it, I can merely just do this. All right, and then put my specifications over there. So I will allow you to do this. To get yourself started, you can select that, place it there, and use this arrow, etc., and then write in your own specification there, and then you can go back to your artboard, move that over like that.
Is that still a tabloid sized piece of paper?
It is not anymore. It is a custom. But
So,
when you print it out on tabloid sized paper, just shrink to fit. And in other words, what I'm really trying to get at is, especially when you guys are doing hardcore wireframes, printing them out on 8.5 by 11 sheets of paper for me to then look at, and they're really super small and I can't see what's going on because my eyesight and whatnot, right? So, capiche? Does that get you through? So again, yes, I want all of you to make your own documents. I didn't do this demo for nothing. Old man Harris. I know you were joking. Here's what I'm saying. People have just used my document in the past, and there's nothing like turning in work that you're claiming your own, and it says copyright Premium Design Works, and I then have to kick you out of school. I don't want to kick you out of school for plagiarism. So, All right, so that's then, I'm gonna save this as bio page demo. And then let's go back to our recording. And let's all say goodbye to Mavis. Bye, Mavis.
Bye.